Hi, I'm Jane, and welcome back to another episode of ADK Talks. Whether it's a place to stay, eat, shop, or something to experience, we bring you the best things to do in New York State's 6 million acre Adirondack Park. Today on ADK Talks, we are talking about how things are really heating up in North Creek, and we mean that literally. Picture this: a blazing furnace, molten glass glowing like a beautiful sunrise over Gore Mountain, and using tools to shape that glass into something beautiful you can take home. We're joined today by Greg Tome, owner of Adirondack Glassblowing Studio, who has made it his mission to give visitors a hands-on, unforgettable Adirondack experience. Whether you've never picked up a blowpipe or you're just curious about what goes on behind those fiery doors, Greg's going to walk us through the art, the adventure, and the spark of creativity that keeps people coming back to his glass blowing studio. If you're looking for a truly special activity in the Adirondacks, this is one you won't want to miss. Welcome to ADK Talks, Greg. We're so glad to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for all the kind words there, Jane.
Oh, of course. So listener, just so you know, I had an opportunity to visit the studio earlier this summer. I had some girlfriends from high school up for a mini reunion, and I decided that we should do something creative and wanted to find something that would help preserve the memories from the weekend. And the Greg studio seemed like a super opportunity to do that. But Greg, I'd love for you to tell our listeners how you describe your glass blowing studio.
I describe our studio as a place for anyone to come and see the process and try it. Adirondack Glassblowing Studio is kind of born out of this partnership with the town of Johnsburg during COVID. I had the year before in 2019 set up a glassblowing studio actually under a tent down in Saratoga at the Gideon Putnam just for maybe a couple months. And during COVID, that they didn't open. And so I started looking for other opportunities, and we tried it here in the barn. And it was pretty primitive, just the bare bones, the bare equipment, and leaving the door open with a fan and a little fence outside to where we are now with a pretty good ventilation system and much bigger, more sophisticated equipment. And now we welcome thousands of people each year to come and try glassblowing. And actually, we just named the website that, TRY Glassblowing, tryglassblowing.com. So I describe it as a place where you can walk in, hear the fire, see the glass. There's some comfortable seats to kind of view. And although we don't have necessarily scheduled demos, we're generally working 5 days a week throughout the summertime and have classes available on those days as well, Thursday through Monday. And then again, you can book those right online. And usually it's just a 1 hour experience. So ages 7 to, I think the oldest person has been 99.
Wow.
Can come and make a project. And the way I describe it, everybody gets a different kind of experience out of it. Some people are really good listeners. Some people are really coordinated. Some people are both. Some people want to just sit there and make sure they keep breathing the whole time. They're so excited. And we do everything. And some others really get involved. And so the whole idea is just keep people safe, have fun, and make something nice. And hopefully learn something along the way. But you're not going to learn how to blow glass in an hour or a year. The idea really here is kind of a taste of glass blowing, an appetizer, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. I made, as you know, because you helped us, we all made paperweights and we got to choose the colors. And we actually didn't do glass blowing per se. But you do that there. But we did more glass shaping. And what I didn't expect was, there's this fiery furnace. It was a summer day. It was warm, but it wasn't too hot. I don't know if it was the weather was perfect or you have the right ventilation, but you kind of get an adrenaline rush. I felt like I was nervous because as you were explaining all the safety stuff, which I think is really crucial, I realized that one wrong move and I could really do some damage to myself. But at the same time, you and the other folks in your studio are right there with the student and right there with your guest, helping them and guiding them through the process. So it was a really neat experience where I felt like I made it, but you obviously helped me make it. It was really cool. I loved it.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad to hear you say that. The there always is perceived risk and actual risk in just about anything you do. I think statistically, driving here is a lot more dangerous than what
Yeah.
we're doing, especially if people are in a rush. But uh, yeah, I think it's worth taking the time to just calm down. Glassblowing is a really immediate process. A lot happens so quickly. The fire is so exciting. It can be
Mm,
intimidating. And so to take a moment and just kind of breathe and look around and take your time, I think approaching situations like that to set you up for success.
yeah, for sure. What first drew you to glass blowing? Was it a single moment or a gradual discovery?
I don't know if it was a single moment, although it may have been. As a kid, I lived on the other side of Saratoga, Burnt Hills, and my dad worked at GE, and we had family down in Pennsylvania, and we'd travel through Corning, New York, quite a
Yeah.
bit. And there was an ice cream shop on Main Street, and then the Stu Bend glass blowers were there, and we'd often stop there and watch the glass blowers. And it started as this kind of fun, educational road trip stop, and it turned into me whining about it if we couldn't stop. Like I always wanted to stop there, and I didn't want to leave. I was just drawn to it. It's something magical about it. There's something kind of hypnotic and captivating with mesmerizing, just as you watch people work with glass, especially folks that have been doing it a long time. They make it look so easy that it's just mystifying. Like
Yeah.
how did it just become a bowl, or how did that become and whatever it is they're making. And so it started there with seeing the process. And then I first took a glassblowing class at Hartwick College,
Hmm.
school there, and then I ended up changing my major to an art major and focused in glass, and kind of got to the point where I thought I knew a lot, and then eventually graduated and got a job at a glassblowing company called Simon Pierce. And
Yes.
honestly, that's where I learned how to blow glass. After about 2 days, they sat me down and they were basically like, "Hey, listen, college kid, you have no idea what you're doing. We got to start from the basics." And I was really grateful for that. Glass blowing is a really humbling process because it can be frustrating. Things can behave one way one day and another way another day simply by a slight difference in temperature, or maybe you don't even notice what you're doing differently. So there's a muscle memory that develops over just thousands of repetitions, and I'm really grateful for that kind of factory experience to kind of get my chops of learning how to navigate the process.
Simon Pierce, for listeners who may not know, is some of the foremost glass producers in the U.S. Their pieces are beautiful. I they're sort of a go-to place for me for wedding presents. And Corning, New York, where Steuben was based, is also the maker of the Gorilla Glass in your iPhone. So there's just a little bit of trivia there. And while not in the Adirondacks, it is in another beautiful part of New York State, the Finger Lakes. So that's just another first tangent of the podcast and a little bit of trivia that I like to offer our listeners. In your opinion, what makes the creative process of glass distinct from other mediums? What is it that, if you can draw a comparison or a distinction between glass and, say, painting or pottery, what would you say that might be?
I think honestly, there's a few things. I think one is for I think real glass artwork, people have had to kind of master the craft of glass making. And with painting, in certain styles of painting, I mean, landscapes or something, that's the case. But sometimes in other forms, you can make some really beautiful stuff with very little training. And honestly, you can make some very beautiful stuff with very little training in glass too. But then good luck trying to do it again. I think what makes it different, aside from the obvious fire, right? Like that's an exciting element that you don't find in many other things. It's like, wow, there's 2,000-degree fire over there. Is that the constants of gravity and time where the glass is cooling off. And so you have this window to do things that you have to get your move done. And once you take the glass out of the furnace, sure, you can go back to the heat and reheat it, but you can never get that original heat. So there's this kind of timeline that you can't just start it and then put it down and walk away, go to the bathroom, come back and pick it up and keep going. You kind of have to be in the moment from start to finish for each segment of whatever it is you're making. So I think that's one big difference. And I think another big difference is there's all these different disciplines that go into it with anybody's artwork that open up the possibilities of what they're making. And whether there's somebody who's extremely knowledgeable or studied in chemistry or physics or any of the sciences, any of those applied to glass can create a lot of different results. And so you can come to glass with a foundation in any of these either sciences or even color theory, like of all these different things, and really create unique, beautiful things that ultimately use light in a way that's not used by anything else. And that's really kind of the biggest thing that draws me to it, is that you can make something, but then if you put it on a shelf near a window, it's going to change throughout the day, and I mean, I think that's those are a couple of things I really love about it. That obviously the fire, the attention to to the necessary to be in the moment and take it to completion right there, and then the light.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have been splitting your time between the Adirondacks in the summer and Arizona. Is that still your plan this year, or what are you doing now?
No, actually, I'm looking for a winter studio space nearby. I had been doing that. I had a kind of another residency there, and then I actually had I bought a building in Arizona, and through a long period of waiting, I eventually sold the building. It was right at the COVID time. A lot of things got delayed, and one of those things was building materials. Those went up, but another thing was just permitting. And so I kind of timed out on my willingness to wait around there. And last year, I ended up spending a lot of time with my folks here in the Adirondacks and during the winter time. And I got a lot of phone calls, and
Yeah.
people are looking to do it here in the winter as well. And although I do love Arizona, I have one of my events there this fall. I don't think I'll be there for the entire winter. I think that I'm hoping to be in the Lake George area
Great.
this winter, and then return here next summer. So, I have 2 years left with this contract here in the town. We're trying to make the most of it and really do a lot of cool stuff with our live music events and the classes. And the studio is finally at a space where we can make some really cool stuff. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but
No, that's okay.
to answer your question, as far as going back to Arizona, it started the opposite, where I was in Arizona living there, and during the summertime, we'd get away for a couple months during the peak of the heat.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I found the opportunity here. And the opportunity here has continued to grow to now it's kind of reversed, where, yeah, I'll still go to Arizona a little bit for a couple of major events. But for the most part, I see Adirondack glassblowing growing to a point that I'm liking. I really like what it's becoming. And the folks that have helped contribute to it do too. And we're going to try to just see where it can go,
I think
and
that's
whether
awesome.
here in North Creek, hopefully, or somewhere here in the Adirondacks. It's just such a beautiful place to be.
I think it's the facility you have is nice, the studio and the big barn. And listeners, it's located kind of behind Main Street in North Creek. So if you know where the Depot Museum is or Revolution Rail, Greg's studio is right there. It's easy to find. It's funny because I would think, given the furnace, it would be, you wouldn't have to heat the barn in the winter, that would sort of provide natural heat, but you probably need something that's a little more season proof there. But I think that's,
Yeah, and the insulation factor. It would be hot right in front of the furnace,
yeah.
but as you know, it does get cold. And so, yeah, I'm looking for another space that, there's a couple things in the works. I don't want to say them yet, but
Okay.
there's a couple
Don't
opportunities.
jinx it. That's fine. Yeah. I think that's awesome. So, Greg, I know that your season for classes is over, but you still have one big event happening the same weekend as the famous Adirondack Balloon Festival that happens down in Glens Falls, and that's your glass pumpkin patch, which I also had a chance to attend last year. That's amazing. Yeah. Tell us about that.
It's super fun, and I got another surprise for you too. We actually have two regional patches this year. So the one here at the studio kind of will wrap up kind of the season for us officially. Right now we're done with classes. We're still here random days making stuff and preparing for these events. But Balloon Fest weekends, which is September 19th, 20th, and 21st, we set up about, 70 straw bales and about 1,000 glass pumpkins. And then we sell them for the weekend. And then we donate 20% to the Indian Lake Theater. And, glass pumpkin patch fundraisers have become, for me, one of the main things I do in the fall. It started a long, long time ago in California when I was living there and teaching. They had this great glass pumpkin patch fundraiser. And so I started kind of working with different organizations, and it was kind of, to be totally candid, deterred by the art world, where you'd have to either pay a gallery a tremendous amount of money or art show promoter a bunch of money. And I said, what? I'd rather see this money go to a good cause that we could believe in, and started partnering with organizations like Make-A-Wish and the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and organizations that help, food banks and stuff like that. And we have two here. The one at the studio that I just mentioned, September 19th, 20th, and 21st, is with the Indian Lake Theater. And then Columbus Day weekend, Thursday or that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have one in Bolton Landing for that the Bolton Chamber puts on for the a scholarship for the school there.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Where will
So
that be in Bolton?
directly across from the brewing company.
Okay. Oh, I bet that's where there used to be the Lakeside Tavern, I think was there. It's sort
Right.
of the empty lot. Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard rumors about that place. Yeah,
Yep.
we're right next to the chamber and the candy store, like right between the two of those in that empty lot.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's really amazing to see. As I said earlier, I went last year. I actually was helping out at the event, and it's hundreds of these glass pumpkins from cute little petite pumpkins to big pumpkins, and I felt like I was in a Murano at a Venetian glass blowing or glass store. They were all different colors and no one like another, almost like snowflakes, and that each were unique. But what was actually really kind of fascinating to me was the process of how we packed them up when we were done. And those crates that you have, and how each piece of glass has its own little foam shell that you put it in, or envelope, and then we carefully
Mhm.
pack it in. And I was just amazed that we didn't break anything when we were doing it. But that's a really neat event. And I love, the fact that, you're supporting the Indian Lake Theater, who we've also had on the podcast. It's a great
Oh yeah.
organization. And listeners, if you're not clear, North Creek is right where Gore Mountain is. So you probably know Gore. Not many people recognize the North Creek name, but it's a cute little town that's just nice to visit any time of year as well.
Yeah, yeah, we're about a half hour or so, maybe 35 minutes from both Bolton Landing or Lake George Village, which I think a majority of folks are familiar with or
Yeah.
even staying at. And we're just about exactly 1 hour north of Saratoga.
Yeah. And, so if you're up here either of those weekends, up here leaf peeping or doing whatever you want to do up here in the fall, because it's a great time to be in the Adirondacks, we'll have those dates in the show notes and on our events calendar on the website. So you'll pick back up again when Memorial Day weekend next year?
Yeah, usually I come in kind of the beginning of May and start tidying up the place. This is a partnership with the town for this whole lease of this building. And so throughout the winter, they're storing stuff in here and we shuffle everything around. So every year there's a couple weeks of kind of reorganizing and dusting things and sweeping and kind of getting everything together. And then we start to fire up the furnaces, usually mid to late May. And there's a handful of local companies that often we do these like glass stamped sun catchers with company
Mm.
logos and stuff on them. So usually you'll find us doing those in mid-May, kind of for that they sell at their businesses throughout the summer, and it's a good way to warm up. And then usually we start classes around the first or the Memorial Day weekend every year.
It would be a great team building event too, I would think, if you were, a small business or a business and you wanted to, take a group of people to do something fun and creative together and collaborative,
Yeah, we've had some really great law firms and different companies,
yeah.
organizations come in, and that's one of the things. Going back to when I did live in California, I taught at the Bay Area Glass Institute, and we'd have all the Silicon Valley companies come in, and we have it fully catered, and spend the whole afternoon with us. And here I kind of do that too, where we give people the opportunity to blow glass and maybe even do a fusing project. As you know, when you're in the classes, it's one-on-one with the instructor. So if it's not your turn and you're in a group of 12, you might be waiting, an hour and a half
Hmm.
for your opportunity. And so we have these other projects that people can do fused glass and make something kind of neat that while they're waiting their turn. And then if you have a larger group of 20 or more, we'll sometimes split the day with Revolution Rail and have half the
Oh,
people
that's great.
go out and go pedal biking, and then half of them come with us for 2 hours, and they switch, and then we have a big barbecue or a catered dinner afterwards to kind of celebrate the day and have just a good time outside of work. There's a video on my website, actually, right on the landing page of the town law firm, which is out of Albany. They
Mhm.
came up and they brought their own videographer. They go, we'd like to give you a video this day. All right, so sure, thanks. And so we put that on there, and it's a really cool kind of glimpse into the process of not just the team building events, but really just the process of the glassblowing classes too.
Yeah, as a survivor of multiple team building events back in my corporate days, I could say 100% this would be one of the coolest things to do. And I would say of the other things I've done, there's a really big spectator aspect of this. I loved just sitting there watching, my friends make their pieces and how they came together because even though, I did it hands-on, saw how it went, it was also interesting to be, the third person watching it too. So I think that's a great activity. So I'm sorry, you'll be back up and running classes after Memorial Day?
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend is the plan.
Okay, that's
And
awesome.
so what people typically do is I have an email list, obviously, like a lot of folks, and you can get on that. And usually about once a month or so, I'll send out something. Sometimes less, maybe twice a month at the most. And usually sometime around Thanksgiving, we'll send out some discounts for gift cards or open up the booking for the following season. And we like a lot of the weekends this summer were already booked up before summer hit,
Yeah,
and so that was a good thing for us, but at the same time, it did create some good problems where people were calling not being able to get in. So I'm trying to figure out a solution for that for next year. And at this point, the plan is to stick with the same opening time around Memorial Day, and then open up registration hopefully midwinter. And if you're on the email list, then you'll also catch the news if we do decide to open up in Lake George this winter. There's a couple facilities I'm looking at and trying to coordinate. There's a lot of logistics that go into putting a 2,000-degree furnace in a 1,000-degree kiln inside of a building. And so hopefully we can pull it together and have a place to operate for about the holidays until through the month of January at least. We'll see.
that's great. So I guess word to the wise, if you know you're coming next summer, and I'm always surprised, although I shouldn't be, how many places are like the Silver Bay YMCA, family resort conference center, they're booking into 2006 and 2007. So if you know you're coming and you think you want to do this, keep an eye on tryglassblowing.com and book your event. And the nice thing is it's not weather dependent. So, and it's if you're looking for a rainy day activity when you're here, you might already be locked out because things get booked up so quickly up here, is my point in saying that. You know, I think we were there for about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. Is that the usual length?
Yeah, so we have two main project choices. I guess there's kind of four choices if you go online, but the two main ones we call the Hudson class or the Tahoz class. And the Hudson, obviously, because we're right on the Hudson River, that's the smaller projects, and you could have up to four people in that class, where each of you could choose to make a paperweight or a starfish or a mini pumpkin or a heart, and that usually takes about an hour. The Tahoz class, which we named after the mine that was up at the end of this railroad years ago, that is our larger project, and you can have usually two, sometimes three people per class, and that's kind of based on per instructor. And so often throughout the summer, I'll have two or three instructors, myself included, and depending on scheduling, there might be a time period where you look on the online and there's three instructors available, so that means you could have triple that amount of people, if that makes sense. So instead of two people per hour in the large projects, you theoretically could have six per hour. But again, that kind of depends on what we have available for instructors. And so the way we've decided to set it up for the upcoming seasons is we just plan as if we only have one instructor, me. And as I get more instructors that sign up I have friends that are glassblowers that might come for a period of time, we'll open up a window on the schedule for a couple weeks here and there to have more bookings. So people have been really good at looking online or emailing, calling, or texting to get in, and we try our best to make sure everybody gets to have an experience, like this. I think it's pretty unique, and it's something I love sharing.
What keeps you inspired after years of doing this?
The reaction that people have when they first see glass, when they first walk in. Some folks have had they've been to Murano, or they've been to Corning, or they've been somewhere and they've seen it. Other folks genuinely have absolutely no idea, and they walk in and they can feel the heat a little bit. They can hear the fire, and they see this glowing honey-like substance. Like, what is this? And you could just see them just like both totally puzzled and mesmerized, and getting to make something with somebody, and kind of that aha moment is, yeah, it can't be missed. That's just really cool. I keep getting inspired through commissions too. This year has been a big year. I went to high school in Delaware, and it was a private school that it was kind of a prep school, and they reached out. They were remodeling their theater, and it was like this big $7 million renovation, and they invited me. We ended up putting a 80-piece ceiling installation in. We brought the whole glassblowing studio to school and had the students make the last 2 dozen pieces with me, and um, that was really cool too because we could again see the same magic of reaction to the process from these kids who were like never seen glassblowing, only heard about it, and spent most of their lives staring at iPads and stuff, and I don't mean to be pejorative, but a lot, it's just that's just the reality. A lot of folks we're drawn to our devices, and so to see something that's so tangible in your hands, it's still kind of magical, I think, to see that happen, and then to have them help contribute to this big project was really cool. And I've also been inspired by finding like glass is one of those things that endlessly has challenges to it. I've been doing some lighting lately for some custom chandeliers for folks up here, and it always turns out beautiful. But no matter how much you've worked with glass, there's always these opportunities to get better and see how it behaves differently in different light. And we mentioned that earlier with just seeing something change in the sunlight. But when you start adding a lighting source, and it opens up the opportunities for colors. Yeah, we did this really cool piece for this folks up at Garnet Hill, which I'm just thrilled with, and there too, so it's neat seeing the reactions to this material that I think so many of us. I don't know about you, but I just grew up as a little kid until I went to Corning. Just we had glasses in the cupboard, and you'd see, you go out, you see glasses. You have windows, you like your glasses all around you, and you're just really far removed from the process of making it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when we get to share that process, a lot of cool reactions can happen. And we had kids just kind of scream, "Oh my gosh!" And get super excited. And I think that keeps it from getting old. I think if people were not excited,
Yeah.
then I don't think I'd be doing this.
You showed us, I can't remember if you showed us like on an iPad or a laptop, your portfolio and some of those projects. And I mean, I was knocked out. They were stunning. And when you see the possibilities of what one can do with glass, it's endless. It's really amazing. Are there pictures on your website of your portfolio?
To be totally candid, I've been somewhat reluctant for some of the projects I'm the most proud of. I don't actually put pictures up online.
Oh, somebody wanted to, I mean, I think if you just talked about a family who commissioned you to do something, how would they approach you about that?
A lot of folks, a lot of times people will contact me either through having already taken a class, or
Okay.
years ago I used to do the art show circuit. So I do shows from Key West to New York City, LA, Chicago, and I was kind of doing the circuit, going around the country, setting up a booth, and just putting up like gallery type work for sale, as well as doing craft shows. But like it was doing the fine art shows, and so there's, I guess, kind of a network through there that
Okay.
folks reach out through. But as far as the process of doing it, a lot of times folks call and they have an idea, and we discuss the possibilities. I
Mm,
think the most common call is people who have purchased things from Murano and they got it shipped and it broke, or
mm,
have like a family heirloom and it broke, and they always want to call and say, "Hey, can you just make some glass that it welds back together?" And it's really sad because it's not possible with the way
right.
glass. And so I have I'll just put that out there, kind of shied away from repair work. I think there's some folks in Corning that they've made their business out of that, but it's as far as the commission process, I'm trying to really keep those to the winter time.
Sure.
And I learned my lesson this summer, where I love keeping people happy and seeing people's excitement. But I took on some commissions this summer, which it was juggling a lot to get them done with the production for the pumpkins in the fall and all the classes. But I don't have a formal process, and maybe that's something I need to, it's definitely something I should probably improve, as far as a submission of what you want. But the way it's worked initially, like I said, in Arizona when I was living there, did a lot of outdoor things
Right.
because you could do it. You didn't have to deal with the freezing temperatures on such a regular basis. So a lot of big, 8-foot agave and big things for people surrounding their pools, that had uplighting and stuff that were really cool. Here on the East Coast, I find that it's mostly stuff that's going inside because
Hmm.
nobody wants to invest a good amount of energy and money potentially into something that they're risking, being on the elements, or they have to take in and put out every season.
Yeah.
So, I would like to do more lighting. That this was just such a blast on that last project. So if anybody's looking for some custom lighting, please let me know.
Try glassblowing.com.
Yeah.
So, Greg, your season is wrapping up, and now, as you mentioned before, you're about to go on the pumpkin patch circuit. We have listeners from everywhere from, well, actually, we have a loyal listener base in Frankfurt, Germany, but I doubt you're going that far away.
Wirklich.
Um, if one of our listeners in, I don't know, New York City or Philly or one of those areas, we have a lot of big listenership from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York City. Are you going to be in any of those areas or
Yeah,
near
yeah.
them?
There is an events page on the website, but this coming weekend, I'm in Westchester, PA, near Longwood Gardens,
Oh,
Unionville,
lovely.
actually, doing a fundraiser at Northbrook Marketplace for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for CHOP. The following weekend is our pumpkin patch here for Indian Lake Theater, we mentioned earlier. The last weekend of September, I'm out on Long Island at North Fork
Oh, nice.
in Hallecksville for the Hallecksville Farm Museum. Just this past weekend, actually, we were in Long Island as well, in Setauket, which was a really fun one for a open door exchange, a furniture bank. The first weekend of October is our biggest one. That's in Sleepy Hollow, New York, and that's with the Make-A-Wish Foundation
Oh,
during the Make-A-Wish like marathon walk. Or I don't know if it's a marathon walk. It's just actually it's like a 3 mile walkathon or something. I can't even really look up where we. It's a busy one for us, and that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday there. The weekend after that is Columbus Day weekend. We're in Bolton Landing, as we mentioned.
back up
And then
here
this year we
again,
have a new
Greg.
one in Lexington, Kentucky with the Thoroughbred
Wow.
Retirement Foundation.
Can you say that
Um,
again? The what foundation?
Thoroughbred Retirement
Oh, the
Foundation.
thoroughbred. Oh, okay. That's neat. Okay.
Yeah, so we connected with them in Saratoga
I
and
bet.
then thought, well, let's do an event, but let's do it at near where we have all our horse farms that are, I mean, they have some here, but most of them are in Kentucky. And then the final weekend of October is back in Carefree, Arizona,
Oh, lovely.
a place where I've been, having pumpkin events for the last decade. And it's a good place to wrap up the pumpkin season. If I guess that's a thing now, the glass pumpkin season.
I love Halloween because it's one of those events that is there's no family dynamics to have to deal with and no present giving and none of that. It's just a really good time. So I'm looking forward to that this year. And what a great way to have a little piece to decorate your home than a glass pumpkin. So that's awesome. Greg, this has been wonderful. I've enjoyed talking with you over the summer and learned even more in this episode. And we'll definitely be coming back to your studio next year and maybe trying my hand at something bigger than just a paperweight. But
Yeah.
it's really been fun. So now the dreaded what we call the hidden gem question, which for whatever reason, our guests, it's the one that our guests struggle with the most. And that is we ask you to tell our listeners what your favorite place in the Adirondacks is. And as we've
Oh my
discussed,
gosh. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, I don't know. That's a dreaded question. I mean, you can't go wrong. There's so many
yeah,
great things.
and I think that's the problem. People have a hard time just choosing one or two.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I think people think of the Adirondacks and they think of canoeing or hiking,
Right.
obviously, or really just taking photos of the beauty. I don't know if they think so much about like adventure. I mean, like real high adventure. And I'd say the Hudson Gorge, is right
Oh,
here.
that's a great one.
Uh, Go whitewater rafting. It's just, especially in the spring, it is just such beautiful whitewater coming down off Mount Marcy, the headwaters of the Hudson.
Hmm.
You might see a bald eagle. You're out in wilderness in a gorge, and it's good class 3, 4 whitewater, and it's big. It releases from the Indian Lake. I think it's Indian Lake Dam down the Indian Creek into the upper Hudson. So as far as something to do, there's
Yeah.
several white companies. They're all great, based near or around North Creek. And if you haven't done it yet, I'd say that'd be on the top of the list. As far as somewhere to eat, there's a bunch of places. Sadly, there's a lot of places that are closing their doors, and some are still thriving. But like Izzy's right here in town is great. But for a restaurant at night, man, I love the Diamond Point Grill down there in Diamond Point.
That's great.
That place it's a cozy little corner of a restaurant. You walk in, there's like 6 seats at the bar and maybe 10 tables. It's not a huge place, and they have really good food.
Yep. Diamond Point listener, if you're not familiar, it's between Lake George Village and Bolton Landing in the Lake George area. So that's a great, no one's mentioned that before either. So that's excellent. In fact, we've never had anybody repeat something that somebody else offered up. So it's just a testament to, the 6 million acre park. It's as big as the state of New Jersey. There's something for everyone here.
Yeah.
So thank you for those suggestions. That's great. And listener, as we always do, we'll have a link in the show notes for you to get this information that and all the places, Greg's mentioned and we've talked about today on the podcast. And Greg, I can't thank you enough for being our guest today and appreciate you.
Well, likewise. Well, hopefully we'll see you at one of the patches this fall. It's really been great, Jane. I appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to hearing this when your editors do their magic.
And they do a lot of magic.
Stumbled over my words a few times, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for thinking of from the Adirondack Glassblowing Studio and our little place here in North Creek.
Okay. Take care.
Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
Listener, thanks again for tuning in to 80K Taste. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others discover not only our show, but also how to find out about the best things to do and places to visit in the Adirondack Park. As I've mentioned a couple times during this episode, go look at our show notes to get links to all the things that Greg mentioned, including Adirondack Glassblowing Studio, and discover other content at our website, 80ktaste.com. If you haven't had a chance to listen to last week's episode where Steve and I gave our recommendations for the best things to do this fall in the Adirondacks, you might want to check that out. We're already getting lots of downloads of that podcast, so I think there's some great content, if I do say so myself. We'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, keep exploring and enjoying the fabulous Adirondacks. Take care. Bye-bye.